let's say an entrepreneur who is starting a business, right? I think you come up with ideas basis personal problems that you face or problems that you see, right? And you want to solve for those.
I get asked about what should I do, which is the right channel, how should I scale, even for example, offline as well. What I always suggest that do not touch GT until you have at least crossed 10 million in annual run rate, or you already have say at least 5 to 6 warehouses where your replenishment is very cyclic now.
We started getting popular and the orders, suddenly doubled, right? I had a go-to auto guy whose phone number I had, and he would come and I would sit in the auto with him and we'd cover 25 to 30 orders in a span of 6 hours.
Wow.
I did that for a week and then my co-founder said, this is not scalable and you need to stop. And then there was a rule that said that Arman cannot make a delivery. There is no way he can make delivery.
Hey everyone, I have with me Arman and Anirban from Sleepy Owl, who have started one of the first independent coffee brand from the country. Arman and Anirban, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your journey in building one of the successful D2C brands as well. May I request you to introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi everyone, I'm Arman. I'm one of the founders at Sleepy Owl Coffee. We started Sleepy Owl in 2016 as a direct-to-consumer coffee brand in the country. We pioneered very interesting categories ranging from cold brew, hot brew, the ready-to-drink products in the country. We've been around for the last 6 years. And what started primarily as a D2C brand today now is largely omni-channel with presence across modern trade, general trade, institutional sales, marketplaces as well. And it's been a phenomenal journey, and there have been a lot of learnings along the way, both product, marketing, supply chain, almost all facets of the business. And, we're very happy to have Anirban on board to join this rocket ship with us, and over to him.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm Anirban. I lead supply chain and manufacturing here at Sleepy Owl. I have all my experience have been in supply chain. I got into supply chain by chance. My initial stints were at Coke in sales, where when I got to see how those products were placed day in day out, I think that's when I fell in love with supply chain, and then that's how my journey started. Started all the way from manufacturing down south, moving across the country's length and breadth, and ending up at Sleepy Owl. So yeah, that's how exciting it has been. Last stint has been very much exciting at Marico. Me and some of the team members who started that business scaled it up almost to 120 crores. So yeah, looking forward to same rocket ship starts at Sleepy Owl as well.
Amazing. No, I wish you the best. Thank you so much, Anirban, and thank you so much, Arman. Arman, I'm sure this is something that gets asked to you multiple different times, but just to set the context, may I request you to share on the genesis of Sleepy Owl itself, right? Why did you opt coffee as the category itself of all the things?
Let's say an entrepreneur who is starting a business, right? I think you come up with ideas basis personal problems that you face or problems that you see, right? And you want to solve for those. My co-founders and I were food and beverage enthusiasts, where we don't have, let's say, we're not coders or tech people or with any skills or know-how on AI, ML or anything of that sort, right? So our understanding was that, we want to do something that we find exciting, where we can solve problems. And we realized that, our daily coffee habit was becoming quite a chore, with us having to either settle for instant coffee or, let's say, go to a nearby cafe. And the in-home coffee market seemed to be broken, with only, a handful of large companies, sort of owning and conquering the space. And we felt there's a significant opportunity to create a young, relatable, innovative brand that can come in and disrupt the category as a whole. And that's what prompted us to get into coffee.
Oh, very interesting. May I ask you to share what were your first set of SKUs and
Sure.
how did you decide on those itself, right?
When we started, we realized that to be able to stand out in a market that, I said there are only a handful of brands, but they were all doing the same thing, right? And the market
Instant
was
coffee.
quite cluttered. So for us, it was fairly simple that we want to get a great quality, freshly brewed cup to a customer, but it has to be done in a very convenient manner, right? And convenience became our play, right? And of course, with convenience, you have to provide a great tasting product. There are no two ways about that in the food and beverage industry, right?
Absolutely.
We growing up, at least I would say the 90s kids or the 2000s kids, right? Heavily enjoyed and depended on cold coffee. That is what our go-to drink was.
Especially in the North Indian part of the country, right?
I grew up in Calcutta, and I can tell you even East India, so it
Oh,
was
is
a
it? Oh,
pan-India
wow.
thing for
Okay.
that generation, right?
Oh, damn,
Cold
okay.
coffee, I mean,
It was one of the things, yeah.
we graduated from Bonvita and chocolate milks, and cold coffee became the cool thing to have, right?
Yeah.
So when we started, we said that okay, our research and our intuition told us that cold brew as a category, which is a way of brewing coffee in cold water instead of hot water over a longer period of time, was the category that started exploding in the West and had not even remotely touched India, right? So we said, if we want to get into this market and we want to stand out and create a differentiated offering, the best way to do that would be to introduce India to cold brew and educate the market so that they, adopt it from us, are able to then be sticky with us, right? Of course, the plan was always to get into other categories in coffee as well. But when you start, you want people to know, yeah, these guys are different because they offer this that nobody else offers, right? No doubt it makes you niche, it makes you small, but it makes you relevant for your consumer, right? So we started with a one SKU which we had for 2 years, which was just a simple black cold brew coffee. We spent time and energy innovating on the packaging aspect of it and how it would be presented to the customer, right? Because beyond product, and we started as D2C,
Absolutely.
and probably answer the next question, is we started strictly as a D2C brand selling our product online, right? So the only way for a customer to experience your product was a great website, good supply chain, so they get it quickly, right? And when they receive it, the whole experience of receiving and unboxing and consuming the product, that became very key, right? So for the first 2 years, we actually had just one SKU, and we scaled with that SKU till a point where we said, okay, now we will introduce more things.
You have mentioned one thing very, very interesting, right? For online brands, right? Experience is something that is only limited to your screen, be it your smartphone, be it your computer, right? However, there's one thing that I have while I have conversation with founders in D2C or even people outside, right? Around experience itself, right? There's one thing that kind of goes missing, especially is how quickly can I get it, right? See, because you're competing as D2C brands, you're competing against, for example, some of the established companies who have presence offline and online. So for a customer, right, for the same wallet share, right, you are competing with someone who is available next door versus, say, for example, coming in tomorrow or after 10 days itself. So of course, product differentiation is definitely necessary and part of this, but a lot of brands still compete with some of the similar products, right? So this is one thing very interesting. Do you want to share something on that?
Yeah, so like you said, it's not just product experience. It is product, supply, and then definitely ultimately the product sits in your house. If it's a food and beverage product, you don't consume. You most likely would not consume it in one sitting, right? So it is there in your house, in your kitchen, in your cabinet, in your dining room, and it's there for a while. So the product experience during consumption as well has to be memorable, right? Because if it's memorable, if it's exciting, then you'll say, okay, maybe this brand doesn't supply to me in 24 hours, right? It takes 3 days for it to come or 5 days for it to come. But then you're willing to make that wait because you're like, okay, it is a superior product. I've enjoyed it. I'm hooked to it. And therefore, I'm willing to make that compromise to some extent because fundamentally it is something that I'm enjoying, right? So your moat at that stage is not speed of delivery or availability. Your moat at that point is just better product and better presentation.
Very interesting. Very interesting. But how exactly did you guys manage, or for example, in our early days, customer fulfillment? How did it work in the early days?
So in the early days for Sleepy Owl, and I would say this may not apply to most brands, but for Sleepy Owl, our product was one that needed cold chain and refrigeration. And this is very early days. I'm talking about 2016 to 18. Where even D2C wasn't a buzzword, or D2C fulfillment by courier wasn't a buzzword. Shipping aggregators were just getting out of the door, right? So people who work with direct courier partners, Blue Dart, FedEx, Delivery, etc. Right? But what we did was we actually hired, when the Zomato Swiggy route, if you were to say, we actually hired our own fleet of delivery riders.
What are you saying?
And we were available only in Delhi NCR at that point in time. We were not available pan India. So for 2 years, our geographic limitation was NCR. And to cater to NCR within 24 hours, we hired our own fleet of riders. We started with one rider, who was able to cover all of NCR with about 10 to 12 orders a day that we were doing. When we started getting popular and the orders, suddenly doubled, right? I had a go-to auto guy whose phone number I had, and he would come and I would sit in the auto with him and we'd cover 25 to 30 orders in a span of 6 hours. I did that for a week, and then my co-founder said, this is not scalable and you need to stop. And then there was a rule that said that Arman cannot make a delivery. There is no way he can make delivery late ho jaye. You'll feel the pain if the delivery is delayed, and it'll force you to plan, hire more riders, make better plans, do that. But you cannot fundamentally go out and do a delivery to ensure customer experience, right? We expanded our fleet to 6 riders who were able to cover 100 plus orders within NCR. And of course, then we started innovating on product. We said, yeah, let's get out of NCR. Let's do things that, can be shipped around the country. And when that happened, we actually went the aggregator route, where we onboarded shipping aggregators to assist us for pan-India fulfillment operations. So that's sort of the early story. And I can tell you, this has never come out on a podcast before in this manner, very rarely.
No, but honestly speaking, I've never, genuinely telling you, I've never really heard that a company which is, thinking so deeply around customer fulfillment. I'll tell you, this is something that very rarely kind of gets discussed. One, and also it's very rare to see this at the first place itself, that you were able to kind of do it from the early days itself, 24-hour delivery. That's quite good and amazing actually. And after that, your entire leadership, your co-founders were also being very serious about this thing, that okay, we need to kind of plan better, we need to start thinking about this thing. So yeah, that's actually quite commendable. Kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
Actually, while we are at it, right, would love to really understand, right, this is again around some of the product itself, but what were some of the assumptions that you kind of made, right, in again the experience part of things, right from for example, entire backend from the supply side till the demand side itself? What are the kind of assumptions that you need?
At the end of the day, we are a food and beverage product, right? So when a customer orders it, they want it as soon as possible. There is no two ways about that, right? It is, once you order it, you start salivating, thinking about the wonderful picture that you saw, the taste. If you've had it before and you're ordering a second or third time, you're craving it. And I can tell you this, our products are largely impulse, right? Where there is limited planning that customers do when it comes to purchasing it, right? It is like, okay, khatam hone wala hai, I need it again, or oh, okay, I saw it, it looks good, I want to try it, right? So there is, speed becomes important. So early days, with our own riders and our own fleet, we were able to maintain a 24-hour delivery timeline. And that was validated because when we promised it and we adhered to it, we saw fantastic repeat purchases from our customers. But obviously, once we started pan-India fulfillment from a single location like Delhi NCR to other regions in the country with courier partners, we were at the mercy of the 3 to 5 day delivery timeline. That obviously was a struggle, is a struggle. We are working around that. But it's been validated clearly that, I can guarantee we've lost customers to Amazon, to Instamart, to Blinkit, etc. because we are available on those channels as well. We are available faster. So then obviously if a customer who's hooked will go to those channels to get it in a guaranteed timeline versus coming to your own website. So D2C begins to suffer if you cannot regulate faster.
That is so right. That is so right. Actually, which is where kind of I'll take it as a segue. And because I'll tell you something. So Anirban, since you would have definitely seen it firsthand in Marico, right? That a lot of D2C brands, right, end up flowing out of online zone and getting into offline, especially in the GTMT zone itself. For example, how Mamaearth started growing, how Sugar is currently growing, right? A lot of these companies kind of started growing, literally doubling every 3 months, mostly because of the GT adoption, right? Want to throw some light how, for example, what are the key drivers of scale that you achieve in a 0 to 1 million this thing, and 1 to 10 million, since you have scaled some of the products at Marico as well?
So for 0 to 1 million, I think what Arman told, I would resonate that for 0 to 1 million, it's all about product and quality and your consumer experience that delivers the product. So that's the journey. If we keep on doing what we are currently doing, basically doing fantastic products at the convenience that the consumer wanted and at the quality that we have been able to deliver, I think that takes us to 0 to 1. That there is no other thing that we will be able to, that will, you take any one of them out, we cannot compensate for 0 to 1. Now, what the journey from 1 to 100, that's where your distribution kicks in. Your D2C, because India, D2C is largely a metro-related phenomena. Although you're delivering a lot of stocks across the metro, beyond the metros, but the ordering and the the orders that comes to our D2C platform are largely metro-related phenomena. To harness that and to grow beyond that, you still, your fundamental interactions with the product happens at that store. You go around, you go in the store, you may see that product on the shelf, and then you'll be compelled to check it out on the website, right? So that's what helps us, and that what will help us to do that from 1 to 100. Now, 0 to 1 is just product quality and the consumer prices. 1 to 100 is availability comes into the picture across the network that we have. And you do, and the distribution is a hard game. You scale, you do one city, open another city, and then you build on, so on and so forth, ensuring that your D2C is still your base. You still are able to supply and cater to a lot of your D2C orders without compromising on the initiatives that you're opening on city-wise. In Marico, that's the approach I took. Also, what Marico had, and I would be honest about it, Marico had a cap, I would say, in-house distribution. You launch a product, you can launch it either online or you can launch it in offline. So for me, it was, you launch it online to do your trials and experiments and figure out if there are any consumer traction to it. Once you've figured it out and you're getting, let's say, good traction in Amazon, in your Q-commerce, it indicates that if you put it in general trade, price it right, and has the SKU that they wanted, it will move. That number of distribution often helps such companies to launch quickly. But when it comes to taking the stocks out, which does not work, it doesn't work that way. For us, since we are always starting with D2C, we can launch quickly. If it doesn't work, we can quickly iterate and go back. That's the difference between Marico and us.
Marico is a big supply chain anyways to manage.
It has a big supply chain. It has a huge distribution reach.
Absolutely. Marico works with what, 900 or so distributors, is that right?
Yeah, it works with 900 distributors. It has its own outlet reach of roughly 3 to 5 lakh outlet reaches. By the products which I launched in a year's time went to 120,000 outlets.
Yeah.
So that's the power of Marico, because it has built this distribution.
See, that's how Marico actually really stood up against the likes of. That's how Marico really stood up against the likes of Unilever and in the country, right? Unilever and Procter & Gamble in the country. That's how pretty much So it's also one of the stories, one of the Desi and Indie D2C brand when they were building it in the 90s. But Anirban, I'll pick you on one thing, right? When you mentioned from 1 to 100 million journey, right? I mean, it's obvious that yes, we have to go offline, right? However, even in the offline, a lot of people don't understand, for example, how GT, for example, I'll just tell it for our audience. GT is general trade, which is your Kirana wala space, and your modern trade is basically your supermarket, your big bazaars, and your Reliance Mart, Reliance Retail, and alike, basically, right? Now, the moment you say that you have to go offline, right? You also have to make a decision between going MT or going GT as well, because GT is a giant beast ready to be awakened, right? The moment you get into it, right, it spreads like a wildfire, right? And availability kind of becomes a big this thing. And even, for example, today when I get asked about what should I do, which is the right channel, how should I scale, even, for example, offline as well, what I always suggest that do not touch GT until you have at least crossed 10 million in annual run rate, or you already have, say, at least five to six warehouses where your replenishment is very cyclic now, right? So that is one thing that I always recommend, that because you will launch it and what ends up happening, it ends up breaking. But do you think, Anirban, is that a right advice that I would give, or would you have something different
No,
there?
so for Sleepy Owl, we own the manufacturing, right? So the flexibility for us to turn around products has been there since the beginning. So that's what is driving our passion to enter this space. And GT right now is so segregated, different number of stores. I fundamentally don't want him to go near to your pan store or the nearest convenience store. I want to be there at the, the aisle formats, which are big formats, where usually एक सोसाइटी के अंदर अगर एक बड़ा फॉर्मेट है उसमें मुझे होना चाहिए. So we have been able to look at GT in a very segmented manner, and we have been able to identify which cities, how many number of stores, and where are all our TG shops. So right now the focus is to just attempt at those, make sure the placements happen for those stores only, and then once we have a product portfolio, once we have the bandwidth and the availability of doing things, making sure this cycle turns quickly, we will probably reach out to a few more. So just dipping our feet into generated the way we want it.
I mean, I don't know, Arman, if you have had a chance of looking at a big supply chain in a company, but believe me, GT is one complex operation to really manage, and Marico has one of the very complex supply chain around GT as well. Arman, to be honest, right, it's very rare to see that a company in its young age, right, ends up hiring VP supply chain. Is usually the very last position that gets filled, basically. What made you choose Anirban and open this position at the first place itself? Although it's very clear already now, but still, I'd love to really get some thought on that.
I think, very simply, so there are two ways to look at this. One is when you say early, right? We are also 6 years old as a business. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily early in our...
Of course.
We've crossed half a decade as an organization. That, as a background, right? Like I'm a lawyer turned entrepreneur who was told that, listen, we're three co-founders. So one said, I have a finance background, so finance. The other two were both lawyers turned entrepreneurs. So he has a knack for marketing and design and has that sense and understanding of marketing. So that was his. I was left, and you say people say I'm left with manufacturing, supply chain, production, operations, and all of those pieces. So for the last 6 years, I believe that, I did my very best to learn, to talk to industry veterans, experts, other founders, and figure out how to do what I can do. But at the current scale that we are, and I would say not as much about the current scale that we are, the current scale which we want to be in the next 18 to 24 months, you would rather have someone like Anirban come in and build it the right way than for me to build it and then someone comes 24 months later and says, okay, now it's time to fix everything, right? You don't want to build a supply chain inefficiently or incorrectly. It doesn't make sense to do it that way, right? Versus you say, okay, let's build it correctly and ensure that as you are scaling, gradually you're scaling, your supply is growing alongside in the right manner with the right efficiencies, so that, when you hit that number, when you hit that scale, see, because I'll tell you one thing, we are confident that demand aayega, right? Demand hum kar payenge. So you never want that when there is demand and then there are supply failures, right?
Absolutely.
Come in, because then you're losing business. And I don't think that's helpful. So it was, and more than that, I think it was, for us, it was less about the designation or the it was about a person fit, right? It
Absolutely.
was just that the individual is excited, understands, wants to build. That was it, right? So
there is this podcast for SaaS companies, by the way, called SaaSter, right? And in SaaS companies, it gets one of the most important position that gets filled in the early days is your VP sales, right? VP sales is a very important position in the SaaS company usually, right?
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. However, right, and there's a lot of material on that, right? However, D2C resources, right, are still kind of getting built in, and still there is no genuinely defined playbook, because it's only been what 6 years, 7 years, pretty much from your genesis, that the D2C term itself started bringing up. In US, it started in 2010, 10, 11, and in India, it's to 15, 16 is when it started, right? So no, this is definitely one of the, I mean, playbook steps basically, which ends up becoming okay, ends up coming in your favor itself, right? Now, while we are at it, right, Anirban, what do you think? What is, while you are getting in, right? You definitely had a vision coming from a large company like Marico, right? You definitely had a vision of how will you scale, right? What is your vision of basically building the supply chain and making it ready from all the angles, so that Arman and his team can really pump in the marketing capital into generating the demand itself?
Yeah. So I think I will keep, you know, when I came in and I looked at the supply chain and I was looking purely from Maricolex. Now, 20 days down the line, I can see what Arman was trying to build, and I would like to capture that. Arman and his team, the founding team, has built a very agile, forward, a customer centric, I would say very customer centric supply chain. What the customer wants, we can actually turn it around in 24 hours, which means we are able to give our consumers the freshest stocks that is possible. The same thing when I interacted with our vendors, you know, the ecosystem that has been built to support this, they are also equally helpful. So for me now, as we move forward, keeping this is my base, keep providing the freshest stock that is possible. So our manufacturing and our ecosystem of vendors that we work with, their processes and our processes are, in my vision, has to be tuned in, tuned to the manner that we are able to turn it around in 24 hours. That's what my vision for Sleepy Owl supply chain. Any product that comes in, we provide them the freshest product at the smallest possible time that is possible. No, we are not targeting 10 minutes. We will, as a vision, I think me and Arman discussed this. 10 minutes, let's allow someone to do it. But for us, if you order today, we will try and get it to you either by the same day or the next day. As long as we're giving the right product and the fresh product, let 10-minute deliveries be taken care by people who are good at it. We'll get there when we get there.
So just one question that I have, a follow on this thing, right? Yeah. Do you think, for example, something like a subscription, right? Because something like coffee is a daily use thing, right? I'll tell you, by the way, Arman, one of my colleague is a big fan of your cold brew, and he makes it a point that he gets his cold brew prepared at his home, and he gets it in a small jar with him, carry with him every day, right? So something like this kind of, for example, have you thought of it, of building a subscription model around it as well?
It's already there. Before Arman answers it, it's already there. We have, you won't believe it, in Delhi NCR, when Arman started this business, those consumers who were used to buying cold brews are still with us. They continue to buy from us.
Wow.
We continue to service them as and when they require it. Very flexible in terms of their ordering, their deliveries, and Arman handles this entire subscription business. It's all in his head. He knows each consumer by their name, where they live, when they want it. I think that's the, that's the kind of connect that Arman has with the subscription consumers. For us, I think what we look at it in subscription is, for me, I look them as early adopters. Anything that we want to launch, we want to try, we obviously give them first and get their feedback. Arman, what do you think?
No, absolutely. And the only downside though is that it's Rahul, it hasn't been scalable pan India. That's the only downside of it. And I don't think any D2C startup has cracked or scaled subscriptions in a big way because of the primary issue with payments and collection of funds and RBI regulations and guidelines.
Tell me about it.
But if that were fixed, I think we would definitely be ripe for being a very solid, robust subscription business. But we're hoping down the line that does get repaired and we are able to double down.
No, even I'm hoping for that to get repaired soon.
When that doesn't happen, we'll continue doing it the old school way. There's obviously a big saying: keep doing things that don't scale, and we keep doing that, and I think customers appreciate it. So that's what's
absolutely, nothing like that. while we are at it, no, Arman, I'd also would love to understand, right? When before Anirban had joined, and since it kind of falls in your bucket, right? uh, Did you, and since you say, I mean, you come from a very different background, right? Being a lawyer, did you build, I mean, supply chain in a trial and error method? What was your trial and error
Absolutely,
methodology?
absolutely. It was 100% trial and error. I'd say a lot of error
What
also.
what was the methodology that you would have? Matlab, for example, as you said, initially you had 10 to 12 order, and then you scaled it to 100, 200 orders a day, right? What was, and how would you, for example, create those A/B tests in the supply chain as well?
Yeah, I think Rahul, it was fundamentally the rule was very simple. You can't be out of stock, right? So there was limited thought around, let's say, capital efficiency or procurement. It is because you can't predict demand, right? And you're also so early as a business, and you're pumping in the marketing dollars. You can't predict demand. The idea was, theek hai, I may not hold inventory of raw material and packaging material. Instead of 15 days, I'm probably holding 30 days or 45 days. So you overstock, right? So that you ensure that you have everything available to supply, to create the final product and supply it, right? So demand planning was not even a term we discussed, internally. It
But
was
you were
just,
doing it, by the way. You
you were
were
doing it
doing it.
very intuitively, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You were
yeah.
doing it very intuitively, so it doesn't result in the best capital efficiency or the best methods or the industry standards, but it was done completely from just gut understanding, historical data that you may have been able to collect. And I think the other aspect of this is you always have to keep learning. So the more people you talk to, the more founders you talk to, the more supply chain professionals you talk to, you can understand what's going on. So whether it's talking to vendors, whether it's talking to service providers, right? You do these conversations to learn and improve your processes as much as you can. No doubt, with someone like Anirban coming in with a wealth of experience, you also understand that, okay, this is the best way to do it, or this is how a bigger organization does it, right? But I think what Anirban clearly pointed out here is that when he's come, he's also seen that there is some magic to the agility, there's some method to the madness, right? Even here, it's
I
madness.
can tell you for sure the
Madness,
things
but
that you
there
were
is
telling.
some
Yeah.
method to the madness that is allowing, for this to work. I'll share a quick, interesting story
Yeah.
where, I guess poor planning in supply chain actually really helped us. So March 2020, it just so happened that before the lockdown was announced, we had got at least 2.5 months of runway for all our RM, PM, everything reached our warehouse. Luckily, it just happened. And then lockdown was announced. So while people were struggling to get RM, PM and order, we were sitting ready saying ki aap
I
orders do.
actually remember hearing this. Honestly, you were on some news channel was talking this thing. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that's true. That was during the lockdown. So yeah, it was just amazing, right? We were just able to say that, listen, we have no shortage of anything, right? We have some stuff that we get from China that had just arrived early March. All our local vendors provided things by mid March, and then last week they said lockdown ho gaya. We were like, yeah, theek hai, there's no problem. Pass lao, factory chalao, fulfill karo, koi dikkat nahi hai, sab ho jayega. You
I'm
know.
sure.
So that worked out well for us in a
No,
scenario
this
like.
would have given you such a big competitive advantage. I'm sure your entire team would have been jumping on your seat,
It was good.
given the opportunity that was there. No, they're very interesting, yeah, Arman. But this is something that very rarely I see such kind of majority in thoughts around fulfillment itself. Anirban, while we are at it, right? This is also one of the most common questions that supply chain leaders kind of always are in the fix, that for scale, would you open new warehouses or get into increase your fleet itself? What would be your thought here for next leg of growth? What would you be focusing more on?
For the before I jump into the next leg, our current setup, we own everything. In our space that we are at, we have our own manufacturing. We have, like he said, we have the riders in Delhi NCR doing all the deliveries of the orders that we get in. We have the own space where we have a dispatch section and the warehousing section. We are there at Delhi and Bombay, right? Now, as we are scaling up and as we are getting more orders, the fundamental reviews that we keep on getting and the fundamental feedback that we give is that, bro, you're giving me orders. The coffee that I want was yesterday. You're giving me, day after tomorrow. That doesn't work. Amazon gives me the next day, right? So for me, it becomes very clear that while we are very good at what we are doing in Delhi NCR, we need to replicate that across our major metros. So I think that's a work in progress. That's already started. You will soon, if you order Sleepy Owl coffee, I would be very glad that maybe in the month of end of April, you will soon get it the next day. So that's what we are trying to. That's what we are trying to scale, and that's what we are trying to build. Your consumers want you to deliver faster. We will be there, and we will do it the capital efficient way. And that's why I'm here, and that's why my team is also working backwards to figure that out.
I wish you the best.
Delhi NCR, I think Delhi NCR model showed us that in Delhi NCR was more of a pilot what Arman did in terms of setting up riders and setting up, fundamentally how to dispatch it, how to communicate with the consumers, when to dispatch it. That process in itself, I can take that process and replicate with any 3PL partners that are out there. That's so easily replicable, and that has been, amended and modified and done better and better as the years went on. I think that model really works. So whatever engagements that we're having with our partners to scale this up, that's the fundamental process that I'm giving it to them. Say, dude, you need to replicate this. That's how we work, and that's how we are going to deliver the experience that we are currently delivering from Delhi warehouse. So that's what the approach has been, and that's what I'm moving forward with. April end, that's my target. You will be ordering from Sleepy Owl's website. You will get it the next day.
I can't wait to see that myself. Definitely, all the best to both of you on that. Now, Sleepy Owl has different two lines of supply chain. Actually, there is one that is kind of packaged SKUs that you have, and one that you kind of prepare freshly brewed ones, right? These are very two different supply chains. How do you kind of create a balance between the two, and how do you manage them?
So there are two, let me divide that. All our large current assortment is largely packaged products. The one that you're talking freshly brewed is our brew box, which is where we brew the coffee and we send it out. Right now, because of our limitations and the product in itself, we are restricting that supply, and we have restricted that supply to Delhi NCR until me and Arman can put our heads together and figure it out how to scale it beyond. That, by the way, is a fantastic product. Consumers who are subscribers of this keep on having it, and once season starts kicking in, they're like, bro, I need, instead of 2, and by the way, that box, it's 1.5 liter a box. So bro, I need 2 for in a week, I need 3 in a week, I need 4 in a week. So what we do for that fresh supply chain is that we get the orders, again 18 hours brewing time, we can brew it here and we deliver it fresh. We get the orders, we deliver it the very next day. Our riders who are there with us since the beginning take the onus and get it delivered. We have also onboarded distributors whom we have told very clearly that, look, you get the orders, your job is to get the orders, our job is to deliver, and we'll deliver the freshest stock possible. Don't need to store it, because fundamentally we have the capability and the refrigeration to make sure that the product is fresh at the time it reaches there. And we have been doing this across Delhi NCR. Now, when it comes to delivering this product across Bombay and Bangalore and other cities, I think that's where both me and Arman has to put our minds to it, and we'll get the products out there the sooner we can.
Get that to
for
Bangalore
the packaged
first.
goods. Yeah. For the packaged goods, it's easier. It follows similar pattern of what larger company does. Since we have very flexible manufacturing setup, so we keep a lot of RM and PM, and our vendors are very eager to hold that as their end. So the ecosystem that has been developed works all in the favor for Sleepy Owl growth. So that's where we have that flexibility to channel our inventory as and when we want it. So that's how we have been building it up, and that's how I think in the next 18 months, 24 months, we will be continuing building on that philosophy. We have a very closed ecosystem of vendors who have been there since the beginning. They look at us as prospective partners. We look at them as prospective partners for our growth. I think that's a very symbiotic relationship that we have there. That helps.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. So while, again, Arman, Since we have discussed that in the beginning as well, right? In the flurry of marketing and branding, do you think on an average, right, D2C brand, does supply chain and fulfillment kind of takes a back seat everywhere?
It does. I think it takes a backseat in larger industry conversations, I would say, to some extent, right? But internally, it's been a strong focus for us, right? I think I've been troubled and harassed enough by my marketing co-founder, who says that, if I'm going to put my neck out there and spend, marketing dollars to acquire traffic, right?
Yeah.
It has to be the delivery experience that will determine how your repeat customer behavior is, and therefore it's very, very crucial to do that. So we are obsessed when it comes internally to operations and supply chain. It's also product quality, is a function of supply chain and manufacturing. So I can tell you, my co-founder Ashwajit, who handles marketing, even if the sticker seal on your box is put incorrectly, he will notice it. And that's the last thing I want to hear from him. So this has to cascade down to the rest of the organization as well.
So Rahul, I believe when the D2C forums and such forums happen, people talk about how they have acquired consumers and how they have their revenue. I think supply chain everywhere is hygiene. The way they are building it up, because they are able to build stronger and stronger supply chain. No one talks about it because it's hygiene. That's table stakes. If you don't have a supply chain that delivers your product the way you want it, no matter how much consumers you acquire, you will spend the same amount and more to reacquire them again. So
absolutely,
that's how,
absolutely.
That's why people don't talk about it that much. But I can tell you, in my community and in my colleagues who are working in the same space, supply chain is table stakes. And I'm happy to do that. That's what my job is. Make sure that all your vision that you build on top of it, I provide a very strong foundation to it. And as you build on it, I make sure my foundation gets stronger and stronger. That's my job, and I'm happy to be in that foundation and make sure that you deliver it. We will support you, and that's my communication, and then that's my commitment across the management team, across the founders. You run with your ideas, leave the execution to me. I'll get it done.
I guess every D2C company needs an Anirban then. Arman, on a lighter note, right, while we have discussed a lot of serious conversation, this is something that really is kind of keeping me puzzled, right? Why is it that Delhi NCR region has kind of mushroomed with so many D2C brands and not any other? It's even, for example, something like Mumbai, where you have talent pool as well. Why only Delhi NCR region?
I'm not sure if this is true or not.
It is true. FYI, facts suggest that.
I've never felt this way or thought about it or put my mind to it. But if I were to tell you why we chose Delhi NCR, so or why we chose, I think 2 or 3 reasons. One, it's the capital of the country. I think it has the most cosmopolitan, sort of crowd here, right? You are, and that would be the first and foremost. Second is, when we started out, rents in Bombay were not conducive to warehousing or thing, at least in the city.
Yeah.
Third is, I think you have solid access from Delhi to the entire northern part of the country. Not that Bombay se bhi west ka hai, Bangalore se bhi south ka hai, but it was just a couple of these things that made us choose Delhi. Why Delhi overall has more compared to Mumbai and Bangalore, I actually don't know. Now that you mention it's a fact, I have to think about it.
Let me actually, so what I have also kind of gotten as answer. See, a lot of legacy businesses, right? Small scale family run businesses, right? Manufacturing businesses are all set up in and around Delhi, right? And a lot of these guys are now kind of coming to light in terms of saying that, hey, listen, why am I have to sell it to Unilever? Why do I have to sell it to, say, ITC, right? Become their manufacturing partner. Why can I not launch my own brand? Right. Absolutely. So a lot of, for example, the new generation that is coming in these family run businesses, right, kind of is seeing that, let's try building a brand out of this thing. This is my theory, by the way. It is not validated. I'm just saying that there are a couple of points that I can pick from it. And plus
I can do one thing from my side, and on the, since you mentioned packaging and vendors and stuff, I think sitting in Delhi, you have access to the
Yes,
best quality vendors
yes.
around the thing.
Absolutely.
It's been a breeze, for us to.
There's absolutely everything that you can get in Delhi, right? And this is something that I've heard from many people, that there's nothing that you can't find in and around Delhi NCR region, be it a manufacturing partner, be it a delivery unit or a warehousing or anything for that matter.
True.
Yeah, awesome.
True.
Guys,
Yeah.
thank you so much for lending your time and sharing such nuggets with us. It is really a pleasure talking to both of you and learning so many wonderful stories. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you,
us,
Rahul.
and all the very best, man. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Have a good day ahead. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, what an interaction it was. You guys just witnessed how Sleepy Owl and its founders used supply chain to their power and created one of the fastest growing brand in the coffee industry. Give us some love if you liked the video. Here's the like button. And please subscribe to this channel if you want more such content. And let us know in the comment section if you want, if you follow any of these founders and want us to interview them and understand how, learn from their journey, how did they grow and use supply chain and various intricacies that are involved in the early stages of the company. Thank you so much and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.